And we told you about that conversation. The National Cybersecurity Center, which is acting as the National Computer Emergency Response Team, and they are responsible for the coordination of cybercrime, cybersecurity, and its related incidents. And especially for many of you who have been following the trends on social media, you know, Hush Puppy, who got nabbed in the Emiratis, you know, supposed millionaire, and ultimately it's all because of the great works of cyber security experts. And we do have the head of that center right here in the studio, the head of the National Cybersecurity Center, Dr. Albert Intwiboisiakon. Good morning to you, and thank you for joining me. I'm privileged to have you.
Good morning, Sir Roland. Good to see you as well.
Okay. Well, so we quickly would have to go through, but ultimately, if we want to ask the first question, it will be, what's really your center about?
It's very important, and it's good. We have this platform to explain. I will start by saying that July 2017, Roland, is an important period in the history of Ghana's cybersecurity development. Three key things happened that, drove our establishment. One, at the summit in Addis Ababa, AU summit, the president signed African Union Treaty, the Malabo Convention, which is the African Union Convention on Cybersecurity and Personal Data Protection. The same period, Cabinet directed the Ministry of Communications to oversee Ghana's cybersecurity development, working in collaboration with other relevant agencies. It's the same period that I was also appointed to support the ministry in terms of the development. So, with regards to the institutionalization of cybersecurity, which is consistent with what every country is doing, not only in Europe and Asia, but also African countries like Rwanda, Kenya, Nigeria, others are doing. And out of this key directions, the National Cybersecurity Center was established. I want to also draw the basis for the establishment. I mentioned about a treaty by the AU, which requires countries to have national bodies to oversee cybersecurity development. It's a new area. And if you look at the criticality of digital platform these days, in terms of, COVID-19 has taught us that sometimes I think the only way we can survive and go about our productive activities, social interaction is the digital platform. So I think those issues were anticipated, driving the convention and so on and so forth. But the ministry also conducted an assessment, when the ministry was given the mandate to oversee that development by way of identifying the gaps within Ghana's digital ecosystem with respect to the protection of especially the critical national information infrastructure. So the mandate of the center as established is one, to coordinate incident response, which you earlier alluded to. What it means is, like physically, we have NADMO, which normally is supposed to respond when incident happen in the physical world. Equally, in the digital terrain, it's not a question of whether you will be attacked. Attacks happen, even in countries like Singapore, Israel, US, which are ranked highly with respect to cybersecurity maturity. They are attacked. So you need to have mechanism in place to be able to prevent that. So that is a mandate of the center. Two is the protection of critical national information infrastructure. What do we mean when we say critical information infrastructure? You sit here, Roland, you do banking. There is a platform, a database, a network system that allows you to do that. There is a mobile money interoperability system, which allows us to transfer money. That is a critical national information, infrastructure. We have paperless port. Absolutely. That allows clearing of goods in a digital manner. That's the critical national information. The telcos, the calls that we make, the transactions that we do online, these are digital systems. In other words, they are network-centric, if I should put it that way. Any attack on these systems has a potential consequence on the survival of our economy. It has happened before. Last year in June, July, Joburg, a city was attacked in South Africa. Their system to facilitate power, purchase of electricity, was compromised, and that caused them a severe issue. So these are some of the trends. We also have a mandate on awareness creation, and I believe the media has followed. For the past 3 years, we've done cybersecurity awareness months, and we're privileged to have the president opening the 2017 and 2019 sessions. actually the first on the African continent to do so. The last bit, which I need to also bring up, is the parents. Child online protection. You know, the issues of children being exposed to risks online, whether it's content or the contact that they establish. And I think these are the areas that we've also collaborated with UNICEF to raise awareness level. And for the past 2-3 years, we've reached about 50,000 people from second cycle schools with respect to the outreach and awareness programs.
How does one detect cyber threats, so to speak, and especially with your center also in place?
Well, it's a difficult question. It depends on the nature of the threat, I must say, and I will use an example. Most Ghanaians use mobile money, so let me use an example. And there is a risk of fraud with respect to the transactions that are done. If somebody calls you and say, I have mistakenly sent you money to your number, so please transfer the money back to me. This is a scam, a social engineering tricks. What you need to do is further ask questions, possibly talk to your mobile money operator, check your credit, your balance, whether, you know, indeed there has been addition of your balance before you actually act, even if you want to be that generous enough, you know, to do. That is why you do online banking. You receive an email that asks you to share your logon credentials. Absolutely, you need to speak to your bank. In the normal circumstances, as a good banking practice, no bank will ask you to actually share that information. So we need to, it all depends on what the issues are, the kind of threat that you are faced, and the center is always available to provide guidance. Anybody who calls, we've established a point of contact. And I can share the details to you. You can call 292 to speak to analysts who will be able to provide certain guidance. So ordinary people, you can also text same to 292. In fact, we also have a WhatsApp number, for example, 050-1603-111, which you can also reach out. A website or even an app, NCSC app can also. And these are some of the mechanisms the ministry has put in place through the center to assist people who may not have anybody available to help them. But businesses can also get help and rightly also consult cybersecurity companies and experts available to assist them in this regard.
But if we want to move forward, we also do know that the National Cybersecurity Emergency Response Team is responsible for coordinating cybersecurity, cybercrime, and its related incidents. How do you ensure the anonymity of individuals who report cyber criminals, so to speak, whistleblowers, if we can use that synonym?
Well, let me once again clarify the work we do here. I should have brought this earlier. Our mandate also requires to work with certain group we call the Technical Working Group, National Cybersecurity Technical Working Group. That comprises the CID, the BNI, the Bank of Ghana, National Communications Authority, NITA, all the agencies that one way or the other have a mandate on cybersecurity. So what we do is we work together. If there is a report made to the center, analysis done by an official of the center, and there is an element of criminality, what do? That case is referred to the CID, because the CID is the body mandated by law to investigate criminal cases. If there is a case that involves money laundering, FIC is a national institution mandated to do that. If it's a telecommunication-driven issue, you need to involve in NC. If it's a financial fraud, money has been transferred into a suspected account, the Bank of Ghana ought to come in. So I think these are the players. It's not just the center operating as a single entity, but we work in collaboration with those institutions. Each one of them legally has a mandate to perform a function that contributes to the development of Ghana's cybersecurity ecosystem. So these are of course, the police has got protocols, you know, but our officers, they are the first handlers of the incident. Have also been trained in data protection, and of course, you know, if you work in security, they have background, you know, checks done, and absolutely, I think their level of integrity with respect to data confidentiality, you know, that's a minimum requirement for you to be able to operate in that area. So I think. And
earlier when you make allusions to regulations, laws, etc., and so it means that prosecutions could take place. But with the current structure of the laws that we have for prosecution for cyber crimes? Are there gaps in them, and how can we improve it?
That's very important. I've done a bit of work across the continent, and generally there are three specific legislation that are used to address cyber-related issues. One of them is the crime-oriented. So you have offenses that criminalizes certain behavior in the cyberspace that are not acceptable in a society, in a country like ours. Then there is another one, which is the privacy-oriented Data Protection Act, which we have, Act 843. What Ghana lack at the moment is the security-oriented, the protection, the proactive aspect of the legislation. And as I speak, the Minister for Communication, Honorable Esla Ozu, has sent a bill to Cabinet. And we're expecting that in the matter of days, we should get a Cabinet consideration. And following that, it will go to Parliament for consideration. The Minister's timeline is to have a cybersecurity bill that will regulate the cybersecurity ecosystem by the end of the year, and I think it's very important. The gaps are there. We need to, as I mentioned, COVID-19 is having a whole lot of implications. Businesses are moving digital, and if we do not have the laws in place that will then strengthen our efforts in protecting those infrastructure, there is a serious risk. The other bit is also we need to build a national computer emergency system in a way that will be able to better protect what is happening, whether in the government space with respect to the digitization drive being championed by government, or the private sector initiative that are even SMEs. We need to reach out to them and provide them the minimum level of security that will allow them to operate. If COVID-19 is to continue for the next 2-3 years, and I think it is critical that we push this effort.
So how are we then faring if we have to make comparisons with our level of fighting cyber crimes?
I think it's, once again, you need to get a benchmark. What determinant do you use? In giving a mark, you need to look at certain criteria. And I will point out to a system created by the ITU. ITU is a regulator internationally of this space. So there is a global cybersecurity index that measures countries' maturity level by a number of factors: the legal measures, organizational measures, technical measures, international cooperation, capacity building, and so on and so forth. So each country is assessed based on these parameters. Now, in 2017, Ghana was ranked 32%. Once again, I mentioned 2017 as a critical date in the history of cybersecurity in Ghana because of this development. At that level, Ghana was ranked 32. In 2018 data, Ghana is 43%. As I speak, the data from ITU hasn't come out, but we have passed above the 50. Once again, achieving 50 is still no good. Right? Thank you.
We want to improve.
Let me clarify here. It's a good progress considering the work that has gone in. For example, international cooperation. Ghana has acceded to the Budapest Convention. It has done also with the Malabo I mentioned. At the domestic level, a safer digital Ghana awareness has been created. The UNICEF collaboration for the protection of children online. NCA has set up a computer emergency response team to support the telecommunications sector. Bank of Ghana effort has reduced the fraud. So there are certain empirical data that support the ranking given by, Ghana's ranking by the ITU. However, we need to be clear that in view of the current criticality and COVID-19, if we do not invest in the protection of our critical national information infrastructure, we are likely to face a serious challenge.
Okay. And I know that you've been nominated, or Ghana has been nominated, or the center, by the Independent Advisory Committee. What does it mean for you as well? And then what may have led us to be nominated?
I think once again, it's good you've clarified. It's not about me, it's about the Republic of Ghana.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was using that synonymously.
I think the minister who, in her wisdom, in consultation with government, decided to appoint me to serve on this platform. But this is the Global Internet Forum to Counter Terrorism, and The IAC is an independent advisory body that gives direction to this body. What is the main purpose of the task force? Is to deal with the growing trend of online terrorism, terrorist activities facilitated by the use of digital platforms. There is something unique I think Ghanaians need to know. The appointment was based on a number of factors. Indeed, Ghana is the only country that has joined countries like the US, France, UK, Canada, and this body. Only 7 governments, and Ghana is the only African country 7. What was the basis? They see the effort we are doing in cybersecurity, but not just that, because we are also respecting human rights. We call this human rights-centric activities with respect to our cybersecurity development. And I think the political commitment with respect to driving cybersecurity has also contributed to this recognition. And we look forward to work and bring further recognition to Ghana.
Well, so we've been speaking to the head of the National Cybersecurity Center and helping us do great discussions on the subject, Dr. Albert Nkriboisiako. Thank you for passing through the studio. Again, I have to say, I wish that we have a more elaborate and get to know what the center is doing. But moving on, Golden Figure Industries Limited is a fast-growing manufacturing company processing foods into quality organic cosmetic products, cleaning and disinfectant, produced right here in Ghana under certified FDA conditions. And they do have in stock GF hand sanitizers, GF rubbing alcohol, GF Jetyl antiseptic, GF multipurpose liquid soap, GF hand washing soap, GF antiseptic cleaner, GF multipurpose glass cleaner. And they are located at the Giselle Estates, SEC DVLA on the Wager Road. Make sure you contact them on the following line: 054-6274-070 and also 054-6273-990. And they have a reliable landline, 030-2957-950. Well, that'll be it for the show. Thank you for watching us. We do have more interactive shows right here on the channel. Have a great morning.